Hello everyone, and welcome to the Urban Tech Helsinki info session. I'm so happy to be seeing a lot of registered people, and not of course audience here in Maria 01 Urban 3 premises, but hopefully we will also meet you in person in the future. My name is Kaisa Ahonen, and I am the project manager of the Urban Tech Helsinki. And today I have the pleasure to present you our program, our incubation program, and also some of our advisors and networks from the funding side of the Helsinki startup ecosystem. So let's start with our own presentation, because that's what we are here for. Our first call is open, and you still have time until Sunday to apply for our first ever incubation program in Helsinki, Finland. And let's go through the main points of our project and our incubation program in the next 5 minutes. First, of course, here's the total agenda. So first my presentation, and then we will have an interesting keynote from Pontus Stråhlman from Voima Ventures, Entrepreneurship as a driving force for change. Really looking forward to that. And then we have our business advisors from our home base Aalto University Startup Center. Ari Seppänen and Timo Rossi will be joining us, and Pontus for discussion about the investment landscape for urban tech startups. And you also have a possibility to send your questions and comments either in the YouTube feed, comments field, or you can send me an WhatsApp, and I'll try to raise it to the discussion with the advisors. You have received the WhatsApp number already when registering, but if not, it's +358 50 350 3573. Hopefully that went correct. Okay, so let's go. What is Urban Tech Helsinki? We are a joint project with the City of Helsinki and Aalto University. And luckily we also have other project partners like University of Helsinki and Metropolitan University of Applied Sciences here in the Helsinki metropolitan region. We run an incubator for early stage urban tech startups, and also pre-incubator activities for research to business teams. And we are operating in 2 major startups hubs of the Helsinki region. So here Urban 3 at Maria 01 in the city center, and then our home base Aalto University in Otaniemi, a grid startup hub. And we are a part of urban tech ecosystem in Helsinki and operate as a facilitator between different partners widely from public and private sectors. And the incubation program we have now opened for startups is for following fields. You can read them here. We opened the first call widely for all kind of startups from all themes, so we can see the landscape, see what's interesting for startups, and who can we then help to become better urban tech contributors to the challenges of the modern cities. So we are looking for an established startup team who want to test their solution in real life environment with the City of Helsinki. And here you can see some of the major requirements or what we hope to see in startups. But the point I'd like to raise here is the ability to commit to the incubation process for at least 1 year. We are running the program in hybrid model, at least for this first year, so you can participate from wherever you want all over the world. And looking forward, a true will to contribute to city challenges with your sustainable solutions. And our operating model is quite flexible. We have periods from 12 to 36 months, because sometimes the testing and validating your business idea with city environments might take a while. You might even want to run your trials for a whole year in all the 4 seasons Helsinki has to offer, so at least 1 year is needed. We cooperate closely with the Testbed Helsinki and also with our partners, research networks and infrastructure in the universities I mentioned earlier. And then also matchmaking with other RDA organizations and also corporations and their networks, especially on the international scale. For example, Aalto University has good connections with sister universities all around the world. And of course, this Helsinki startup ecosystem, we will be hearing a bit more lately from the funding side, which is of course very important for the startups. And here are some of the benefits. So not just this Maria Startup Hub space, but we are free of charge and work together with the Aalto Startup Center coaching and training process, which has been evaluated one of the top university business accelerators in the world. And we already have a large list of mentors in Aalto Startup Center database, as well as the innovation and startup tools used there. And of course, with the help of our friends in the city of Helsinki and Maria 01, as well as Aalto University, we have visibility, marketing, and PR support in our ecosystem. So as I mentioned earlier, applications are now open, so first call until next Sunday, and we will start on September 14th in a hybrid model. If you are a research-based or otherwise urban tech team who is not ready yet, not established a company, or you still are missing a team member or something like that, you can also have pre-incubation support from our partner Newco Helsinki for free, and then also join our events on different campuses of our partners. And of course, we are looking also for mentors, corporate partners, investors, and everyone else interested. Please contact me directly to join the Urban Tech Helsinki network. Here are our contacts. You found us already, so no need to repeat them, but please don't hesitate to contact me directly if you have something to question, something you want to ask us, even after today's session. Okay. That was my first 5 minutes. And now I have the honor to ask our keynote, Mr. Pontus Stråhlman from Voima Ventures, to give his speech about the entrepreneurship as a driving force for change. Welcome, Pontus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Pontus Stråhlman and I'm from Voima Ventures. Voima Ventures is a deep tech VC fund investing into science-based startups that have an impact in their business strategy. So even though urban is not directly in our investment strategy, we do see a lot of overlaps with this incubation program. So I sincerely congratulate all the stakeholders to set up this kind of a new initiative. A bit about my background, perhaps. I have a master's degree in finance and I've been in distribution and sales as an entrepreneur for quite a long time. So I haven't actually done a lot of deep tech. I have worked with a lot of deep tech companies, deep tech startups in my past though. I sit on the board of such great companies as Solar Foods and Enifer Bio, Geysir Batteries and M-Vision, all trying to solve really good problems that humanity is facing in the near coming future. I think I do add a lot of value into those companies because of my background within sales. And I think that is something I like to discuss. I want to see entrepreneurs solving business problems, solving problems that generate a lot of money in order to solve even larger problems. So I thank you. I don't have a lot of slides, so I thought I'd concentrate this time in discussing what kind of problems I see, and we at Voima Ventures see entrepreneurs particularly good at solving. We want to see exponential problems. We want to see science-based innovations that we can support and turn into profitable companies. We want to see teams that have a global mindset, that solve problems that have a global scale. I don't think that this is at all against sort of the urban setting. Cities are growing more and more important throughout the world, and most of the really big innovations, I believe, are coming from an urban environment. But they do need something special in order to grow. They need access to global networks, and they need access to capital. These elements are something that I certainly hope that urban tech will now support the startups joining. So what is so special about technology companies? Well, the journey is long. And I think that all people with an entrepreneurial mindset should embrace the thought of a long journey. A lot of businesses start off and explode really fast, but perhaps they aren't the ones with a really huge impact in their business plan, and not the ones that are really trying to bring out new technologies to market. Science-based startups, of course, start off by researching a subject. They walk down a path where they reach an innovation. But what they really, unfortunately, only at this point have achieved, they have achieved a solution that is actually looking for a problem. Quite often you come up with a new material. You come up with a new technology. You might come up with a new battery. However, that is not necessarily something that is directly relating to a customer problem. And I think that there lies the value in joining an incubation program, because at the end of the day, if you as an entrepreneur want to solve some big problem, you need to define and understand a customer problem. And the fact is, the customer doesn't actually care how deep tech your solution is. They care that the problem you have reached will be solved. I think that the journey towards a minimum viable product in a deep tech company is longer than the average startup. However, I also believe that the impact that deep tech companies can make will eventually be a lot greater on society. Entrepreneurs should focus on different problems than the public sector. I'm an investor into startups, but I'm actually also a very large supporter of the public sector support for innovation. Places like Aalto University and Helsinki University are places where really fundamental innovations are being made. They are not made in startups as such, or at least that is not that common. The internet wasn't invented by a startup. The same applies to almost any groundbreaking technology. I think that the common denominator quite often is that for a startup to be the best place to develop an innovation, there has to be the economic incentive behind. There has to be the promise of large profits. Because if there is the promise of large profits, it attracts more capital and it attracts talent, and it can innovate faster in those areas than the public sector. However, I certainly hope that institutions like Aalto University and Helsinki University keep on innovating. But I warn also the entrepreneurs that sometimes they want to have a greater impact than a business opportunity. And in those cases, a startup is probably not the right vehicle. I have unfortunately seen quite a lot of startups in Finland who are trying to develop a business model that will have an impact, but that doesn't have a viable, profitable business plan. And unfortunately, in all of those cases, the impact and the business has remained zero. So that is why I certainly look forward to seeing the companies that enter this incubation program. I hope that they will solve large problems that will benefit people living in urban environments. At the same time, I want to see business ideas that can generate substantial cash flow so that you can get a real impact through a startup. Thank you. I didn't time my speech, so I'm not sure how long it was, but this was roughly what I wanted to say. Was I a bit too short?
You were a bit short, if you still have something to say.
If anyone has any questions. There's any I could give a few examples on the investment thesis of Voima Ventures. So, for instance, when I sit on the board of Solar Foods, we are creating a novel protein that is intended to become an incredibly sustainable source of new protein. However, it is, in my personal opinion at least, extremely vital that it tastes good and it has the texture to fit on the plates of Western consumers. Because that is the way to profitability. And that is a roadmap where a company doing an innovation like generating a novel protein can grow and have an impact. I've heard pitches from many who have claimed to have even more sustainable protein sources, who have sounded a bit like the protein porridge in the movie Matrix that is generated when you know the Earth has gone under through a nuclear catastrophe. I think that there are places where that kind of innovations are extremely important and can save a lot of lives. Unfortunately, it is not the work of startups to generate innovations like that. It is the work of the public sector to innovate solutions that do not sound like real cash cows. And I think that you can get so much faster in developing the innovation if you focus on areas that generate a lot of cash flow. I think that the same applies in all urban settings. There are startups that are looking for improvements in urban mobility, for instance. I think that they really need to focus on improving the consumer's benefit and really making sure that the consumer values those services and are ready and willing to pay for the benefits that they receive. Otherwise, it is very difficult to generate a scalable business model. And if your business is not scalable, then we go back to the notion that your impact will not be good. If we take medicine or the life sciences startup Envision, where I'm working with, there the innovation is about curing cancer, but it is really about making a new kind of service that doctors and nurses cannot do. The MVP, in fact, in Envision was only about saving nurses' time. And I think that was a fantastic MVP. It showed that the team was able to use artificial intelligence in a way that helps in the hospital environment. But it didn't actually have a huge impact. So it was only once the team was able to generate the artificial intelligence to do things that doctors and nurses didn't do, that the actual impact started to occur. So I certainly hope that the ambition level of the startups looking to join the urban tech incubator will be high enough that it doesn't save a lot of time or resources, but that they actually make possible things that haven't previously been possible. Now I hope I've said almost all I can, so I thank you for this.
Thank you, Pontus. I actually have one question for you. You already talked about Solar Foods, which is of course also from Aalto Startup Center, European Space Agency Business Incubator Program. But can you share some example of a sustainable impact startup that have gone through successful funding rounds?
Well, of course. Of course, Solar Foods has gone through successful funding rounds. And there, if we think about it, the investors, we need to be quite patient as well. But we are. In Solar Foods' case, for instance, it's not about turnover, simply because you need to have approval from authorities before you can bring to market a novel protein. So we know that we are at least a year from actually bringing any product to market. So it is about telling a story. You need to have a story that is big, but it's not enough. You also need to make people believe that you are the right team to actually solve that big problem. And then you're able to get financing. Then you're able to get people to support you, even though the road to any sales or products is a fairly long one. We certainly have a lot of other good investment rounds in the Nordic regions as well. We have seen companies like Origin by Ocean getting decent financing rounds that want to clean up the oceans. We have seen companies like Carboculture who want to make carbon sucking carbonization of I can't say in English what they actually do. They're not in our portfolio, but we have seen a lot of good startups raising funding. Of course, when we look at funding, our concern is always that it needs to have a good financial return. And that is why good companies like Volt that I see brings a fantastic service to market, but I'm not convinced of the societal impact or the environmental impact of it. But they will certainly get a lot of funding because they are good businesses. But at the same time, a lot of support is going towards startups that has a positive impact. And I think that the time to start a startup that has an impact is now better than it has ever been.
Thank you, Pontus. That was a good finishing sentence. Now I kindly ask you to join the panelists over here because our next section is about to start. And that's introducing our advisors. So we are very happy to welcome 2 brand new advisors to Urban Tech Helsinki and Aalto Startup Center. So here are 2 gentlemen, Ari Seppänen, who will be the Urban Tech Incubator Business Advisor, and Timo Rossi joining Aalto Startup Center as the Finance and Funding Advisor. And now the stage is yours for your small presentation. So Ari, would you mind taking the microphone and starting telling the people who you are and why are you here?
Hello everybody. As Kaisa mentioned it, I'm new. Okay, now mic is on. Right on. Sorry. As Kaisa mentioned it, I'm a new face in Aalto Startup Center, but I've been involved in the startup scene since 2012. Been coaching and been looking for and evaluating pitch decks at, let's say, hundreds and hundreds of them. So looking forward to help those urban tech companies that was very nicely described by Pontus' presentation, and I'm looking forward also to cooperation possibilities with the VC companies, because I find out that the VCs are also very important part for the ecosystem, not for that they are funding, but the knowledge and the network they are delivering to companies.
Thank you, Ari. Maybe you can pass the mic to Timo.
Yeah.
Still on?
On?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. So I joined Aalto just roughly 2 weeks ago, and I come from the investor community side. I have some 20 years of experience working as a fund manager, portfolio manager for institutional asset managers, private banks, and family offices, not just in Finland, but also in Russia, in US, and the last gig was in Luxembourg. So I joined Aalto from a Swiss family office.
Thank you, Timo, and warmly welcome to both of you to Aalto University and Urban Tech Helsinki community. Okay, I guess the first question goes to Ari. So a general question about the startup ecosystem and the investment scene in Helsinki. How do you see it at the moment? What's the situation?
Kaisa, may I answer in one single word? The situation, the landscape is quite hot at this moment. We've been seeing many good rounds, and seems like that it's going to be a record-breaking year this year. Last year we almost hit 1 billion in investments in startups, and seems like that we are exceeding the level even we are in the middle of this year. Even we take Volt Enterprises big round in January off, then we are on very good track. That seems that the landscape and the situation is good. I'm more or less about concerning about the companies that do we have enough good investment targets and are they fundable enough? And that's one thing that why we have taken this Urban Tech Helsinki initiative, that we make the Urban Tech companies fundable and more food for those VCs like Pontus is presenting.
Thank you. Pontus, do you want to comment on that? How do you see the situation?
I also agree. I mean, the situation is very good. I do believe that it is driven by better startups. And I mean, that is, of course, a requirement for the ecosystem, for the investors, for everyone to keep growing. Because good startups, good companies are, of course, what it is all about. And without those, then nothing remains. But I do believe that a systematic work towards building better startups has been going on for more than a decade. I joined in 2013. I started looking through at startups through the Finnish Business Angels Network, and then I coached startups at Startup Sauna. I do believe that the quality of early stage startups has improved. And if that is the case, then of course we should see new record-breaking years in the future as well, what regards not only to finance, but also towards turnover of startups, employment by startups. And I think that the ecosystem looks good and it will only continue growing.
Timo, coming from outside to Finland, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I totally agree with the speakers here that the market is very hot. There's plenty of liquidity. I think there's a lot of untraditional investors looking to invest in venture, trying to find the profits in the market. So yes.
Looking good there. Now that you, Timo, have the microphone, so maybe you can take the next question about the research to business cases that we are looking into in this Urban Tech incubator mainly. How do you see about their funding rounds? Is there anything special about research to business cases when planning their funding, and tricky points? Pontus mentioned something already in his presentation about the timeline and the impact, but what's your view on this, Timo?
Yeah, I think Pontus made great points there. What to add maybe is just to start your preparations very early on, how to approach the investors, funding community. Startups tend to think that the route or the funding process is probably faster, but it tends to be longer than thought. So it's always start preparing early, maybe touch base with the investors early on, just to let them know what you're doing, what you're preparing, and start communicating with them. So that's...
Can I also comment?
Of course.
The funding landscape is really good at the moment. Not only is there VCs, but there's also quite a lot of public support. And I think that particularly for companies developing new technologies, new materials, the funding landscape looks, the public funding landscape looks also very promising. However, I do sort of have a bit of a warning for starting entrepreneurs that look too much on either VC support or public support. I think still that the best financer is a customer. And what we saw a bit of a dip at the beginning of this COVID crisis, but it has grown back up, is larger corporations' willingness to test new solutions with startups. And if you can, as an entrepreneur, find a customer who could co-finance by buying your services or your products at a very early stage, in a proof of concept stage already paying for that service, then you are actually financing in a lot more efficient way, because you are in deep contact with a customer who will also help you develop your service at the same time.
Ari, do you want to continue?
Yes, I fully agree that the best funding sources is customer. That's also validating your business case. And that's we shall point out also in our program that there had to be the feedback loop as early as possible, that we get the really end users feedback, that we like also validate the cases with guys like Pontus, that because they know that are we on a good track, that our task is then the roadmap in that sense, that it makes sense and there are sensible goals and milestones that can be achieved. That's also why why you don't have to hesitate to apply for this program, that we are here to help you and want to give everything that keeps you on track. It's our team and it's our network, and it's like the entire universities that are also like partnering with us, that we get all the knowledge and talent and the network from the university world.
That was maybe already the answer to my next question. So what would be your advice to the startups teams thinking of should they apply to this or any other incubation or accelerator program?
To be honest, that we are not offering any silver bullet. We are offering hard work that you can stay on the track, as I mentioned it. And that's what we are doing, because sun is not always shining. There are going to be stormy and windy weather, and that's why we are existing, and that's why we started also the Urban Tech Helsinki initiative. We know with Pontus and with the guys that it's quite hard. It's more than marathon. As Pontus mentioned, 6 years' time is like an average. And when we talk about deep tech companies, it can be much more than 6 years also. And that's good that you make the house of your basement so good as possible. We are making the basement in that sense that you can build the house in that sense that the users will love it. Love the problem, not the solution. As Pontus mentioned it, you come quite easily with the solution, with the deep tech idea. But the problem is that what the users are looking for. Can we solve that problem? And then we learn you to love also the problem. That otherwise you lose the contact with what you are doing, and other end users loving what you are doing.
Yes, and of course, all other cities in the world have similar kind of problems than the city of Helsinki. So if you solve your problem and find your customers here, it's probably easier to then go to the next city. Ari, can you pass the mic to Pontus if you want to share some advice to?
Well, it is true that the problems that the city of Helsinki has are usually ones that other cities also need to solve. However, quite often there are solutions out there that are only done for foreign countries, and it might be that in the Finnish market we do not just know about them. So sometimes also Finnish urban environments might have problems that are already solved somewhere else. A good entrepreneur understands this and makes sure that they understand the competitive landscape really, really well. There's no point in reinventing a wheel. There's no point in reinventing the wheel just because it fits a bit better to the Finnish landscape, if it is already something that is solved commercially viably abroad. So make sure that you really understand the global competitive landscape before you start solving a problem that is applicable on the Finnish market.
Yes, that's very good advice, because Urban Tech Helsinki is also inviting international teams to join the incubator program. As I mentioned, we operate in online mode at least for the next year, so global reach hopefully will be there. And Timo, do you have any advice for startups thinking of applying to an incubator, ours or others?
Maybe from the finance funding perspective, like I said, preparation, and also Pontus already mentioned as a good example of an investor that maybe startups, they tend to focus a lot on the product development, but really build your story, because that in the end is really what the investors are looking when you're pitching them, when you're sending them material, whatever. That's really, it is the story, your story, what is the problem and what is your solution to it. And maybe also I talk about touching base with the investor base, look around, look at the investors, maybe not just in Finland, but overseas, and think about early on what you want from an investor. Are you just looking for a passive, more like funding, or are you looking for expertise, somebody who can really leverage your knowledge and bring added value from that perspective?
Okay, thank you, Timo. And thank you, Pontus. Thank you, Ari. This is the end of our discussion session. We still have some questions and answers. Thank you all for sending those. So these are mainly for the incubator program and less for the startup ecosystem. So if you have something to comment, please step in. But I'll try to answer these. Pedro, your question is that do we demand 3 days a week work? It was 3 events per week, so our events might be from 15 minutes to an hour. So, and not all of it's obligatory for every startup. So, for example, if we have an energy-themed workshop, of course, if you're an urban farming company, you don't have to participate that. So we will try to create a program, tailored program for everyone, so they will get the most benefits from it, but not demand too much of their actual time developing their own business and finding customers. And then the next question, Ari, maybe you could take this because you are an expert of this area. So Martial is asking, how is Urban Tech Helsinki different from the Newco Accelerator program? Why not only have one incubator in Helsinki city?
Yes, as I mentioned it, that and many those guys also mentioned it, that we are focused on urban tech context, and urban tech context is now booming. Everything that comes on that size is like very interesting, and I don't say that. I mean that we need many kinds of service and service levels, but as mentioned it, that we are partnering with the universities, and we are like leverage also with our partners, the networks and the knowledge, and go a little bit deeper on those urban tech, deep tech issues, and that's why why we exist. It's not that you are fundable, but you should be fundable in deep tech context, as been mentioned many times, and this is like a marathon. This is very long. We are developing applications that can be coded in 6 months and try to push it on the market. We make it almost it could be 6 years time, and that's one thing that we want to give enough road for that there is enough time for the development and finding customers.
Thank you, Ari. Yes, of course.
I mean, I'm not a part of the program planning, but my sort of intuition is that, and I mean, we are a deep tech investor. But there will be many fantastic startups that have no new technology at all. In fact, I would gather that most of the successful startups are startups that are merely commercializing something, some existing innovation, but packaging it in a new way that brings a lot of new added value to consumers. And if I've understood correctly, Newco Helsinki is then the place for that kind of startups. But of course, Voima Ventures is a deep tech investor. that is because we see that the time is right now correct to also put more support and more money, more efforts into deep tech companies. And maybe that is sort of also the reason why Urban Tech Helsinki as an initiative is a very good one.
Yes, I fully agree. You put it much clearer than me that why we exist and why we have why this is like a joint venture with those entire universities.
Yes, I would have raised the same thing, the university cooperation and the Deep Tech Park. And this also answers to Chaos Company's question about our differences or similarities with the Urban Tech program in Denmark, Copenhagen. Their operating model is mostly with the corporates, so they are partnering startups with corporates and creating business opportunities for them, and we are partnering startups with cities and universities. And we have good cooperation. We have been in contact already with our friends in Copenhagen and exchanging information. Okay, I think we have reached the time now. 45 minutes went fast. Thank you once again, gentlemen on stage. And thank you everyone for watching this and making this streaming happening. Thanks our team in Urban Tech Helsinki. Just a quick reminder, our first call is going to close on Sunday. So if you want to be part of the first ever batch of the Urban Tech Helsinki incubator, apply now, and hopefully we will see you then in the incubation program here in Urban 3 Maria 01 Helsinki, Finland. Thank you all.